decide what he wants to do with that comment.
Okay, I'm gonna call to order the urban.
Not yet.
You gave me the high sign.
Now, Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Steve Van Haverbeek,
Here.
Commissioner Dan Holliday,
Here.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith, here, Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Here.
and Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Here. Do we have any citizen comments this evening?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. Everybody, any difficulties with the agenda as posted? Hearing none, we'll move on. We'll open the public hearing, 19-353 on resolution number UR 19-01, which is the adoption of the urban renewal budget, making appropriations and declaring tax increment for the 2019-2021 biennium. Mr. Parno, I believe you're doing this?
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Donnell, and thank you, Commissioners of the Urban Renewal Agency. With Resolution UR 19-01, we are requesting that you adopt the biennial budget for the urban renewal area, establish the spending appropriations, and declare the tax increment to provide revenue for the district. As you know, the Budget Committee met on May 13th of this year, and the proposed budget was approved with no changes. The budget does not contain any new projects. It only includes appropriations for the cost to administer the agency, pay expenses for agency-owned properties, which is offset by rental income, and pay debt service. In addition, there is $7.2 million that has been set aside with no appropriation for spending for future consideration by the Urban Renewal Commission. The budget was thoroughly reviewed by the Budget Committee, and tonight there are no changes requested from what was approved by the committee in May. So after holding the public hearing, we ask that you adopt the budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Discussion or questions from the commission?
Let's close the public hearing first.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And
Excuse me, sir.
discussions or questions from?
Point of information, did you ask whether anybody wanted to speak?
Well, is
Public
there
hearing?
anybody here?
Well, but it's just procedural.
There is. Fine.
There is someone here.
I'll reopen it for a moment to ask if there's anyone here that wishes to speak. Seeing none, I'll close the public
Now you're
hearing.
Move to approve or adopt the budget for the Oregon State Urban Renewal Commission as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Call the question.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
No.
Commissioner Steve Van Haverbeek,
Aye.
Commissioner Dan Holliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
and Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Aye. Do we, other general business, item 6?
You could tell them that we had our first meeting.
Are there future agenda items, item 7? Seeing none, do we have a
Wait,
report?
I got a question.
Go
Do you
ahead.
have any, Mr. Kunkel, any plans for urban renewal agenda items that we don't know about?
We have, Commissioner McGriff and I met today to talk about, she provided some of the work that she was researching with some of the other agencies is how they've dealt with urban renewal. And we're going to meet again, putting together and talking about the public engagement process. So we expect to be bringing that back to the Urban Renewal Commission. That would probably be in more of a discussion type setting to just make sure everyone is up to speed on what we're doing. We're addressing at least, the questions or concerns that each of the urban renewal commissioners has, and kind of an agreement on that process to work towards answering those questions about the district. So that'll be coming forward. Still continuing to work with the code developers. I'm meeting the requirements of the development agreement, so you'll be seeing that as we continue to work through those that need to be brought back for the commission for approval of those preconditions. And then we've also been working on some of the quiet zones. So some of these overlap between the city commission and the urban renewal district. So right now, those are what we're working on as it relates to the district.
I would like to, pose an idea, and and I'm not even saying that this will ever actually come to any fruition, but I would like for us to consider the nexus between urban renewal and affordable housing. There's a lot of conversation. We'll have conversations at the city commission level about possible things we could do to incentivize affordable housing. I don't think there's a best practice anywhere. I'd be interested in knowing if I know some cities are considering it, and how they could use urban renewal as a match per se, or coming to the table when the city doesn't have any other resources to come to the table. And so just as an informational, if there's information out there of this nexus, I think we're all trying to tackle affordable housing, and for me, this is one item that might be on the table as an option, and I don't even know, it's just a matter of looking into it. So no urgency, but I would like to throw it out there for consideration as something for this group to consider.
My only comment to that would be that I don't see how using urban renewal funding for affordable housing generates any tax increment. And I would be opposed to any project that does not actually generate increment. And the fact that Metro somehow passed a $650-some million bond, there's a lot of money out there over the next 2 or 3 years for affordable housing projects, working with Clackamas County. So
Well, I would add to that, since the county we're supposed to be having them come and talk to us about that at some point in time to figure out basically proportionality, how much each jurisdiction might be eligible for, or whether we're gonna get anything. But my experience, Rachel, is that because it was in several of the urban renewal plans that Portland Development Commission created and were approved, they were able to help fund some affordable housing projects, but they were the gap. They were not the primary financer.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
there is experience out there besides Portland and some other jurisdictions where, again, it has to be in the plan, it has to be programmed. You can't just kind of pull it out of the ether and say, oh, we're gonna spend urban renewal money on this. So there has to be a plan and a program within the urban renewal document that specifies how that's gonna help. And most of those developments always have retail on the ground floor, so the entire project is not tax exempt, only some of the housing is. And then there was the whole option of looking at, in all the agreements that we had with the housing department, I forget what they're called now, I think they're called Home Forward, which is, again, don't go there. But there was some provision for some reduced rents in part of the building, and then others would be at certain rates. So, I mean, it's very, very complicated, but there are models out there that if you're interested in that, that's information that could easily be gotten to look at.
Yeah,
But
my idea is not even considering us being any primary, as a primary developer or anything like
No,
that.
we
But
wouldn't, no.
from what I understand and all the conversations that are happening, any affordable housing developments that are being considered largely or generally require some other incentive to come to the table to help the project pencil for the developer. And so,
Yeah, you're talking about-
it's a long-term,
talking about HUD,
thing that,
there was HUD funding, there was county funding, there was, sometimes you would see a combination of the federal funding, community development block grants. Then you have, there were a few private entities out there that would fund some portions of housing. So there was a package of, it was not one organization or one entity. And then what PDC would do is that they would, if it met the goals and requirements of what the plan was for that area, they would look at whether or not they could do the gap. But that was it. They didn't develop any housing themselves.
Thank you, Commissioners. Is there any future discussion on future agenda items of any kind? Hearing none, we'll move on to the city manager's report if there's additional other than what you've already given.
I don't have anything else tonight.
Okay. That being the case, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
And we're gonna adjourn into executive
Mike,
session.
I will call you when we get into the other meeting for exec session.
Okay.